And to you, the South Africa I know, the home I understand. South Africa in numbers. I've got a small presentation to just whet your appetite about the results and how you can use them and how you can access them. It's been the most rewarding experience to enter and probe several South Africans' households, 14 million of them in all, getting in there, getting the information across the country, in the undulating hills of KwaZulu-Natal, the highlands of Eastern Cape, the flatlands of the Free State, the desert of the Northern Cape, the platinum provinces of Northwest and Limpopo, all of them were counted, and the Gold City. Today I'm presenting to you the results. Now, imagine the world in 1950, 2.6 billion people. And this is how the world was. Mighty China, mighty India, all of them there, and South Africa and the US. Life expectancy in China, 40, South Africa about 45, and India about 40, and the US about 70. You know, this is how South Africa's narrative improved. On the one axis, we are measuring income. On the other axis, we are measuring life expectancy. Life expectancy and income rising in South Africa in the 1960s, the 1970s. Soweto riots in 1976, the sanctions begin to bite, income stops to grow in South Africa. Life expectancy, however, continues to grow. Life expectancy growing. And then, of course, we are hit by HIV and AIDS. Life expectancy drops in South Africa. And by 2011, of course, life expectancy begins to grow. So where are we by 2011? South Africa about 57, 58 life expectancy. China around 69, 70. And India just lower. And the US about 70. Quickly, how has South Africa, where are the numbers? The numbers of people that you find in a country is a result of the number of people that are born, the number of people that died, the number of people that migrate, both in and out of the country. And over this period of time, South African women have been giving birth to about 1 million children a year. And about 600 people have been dying. And there have been a small number of people migrating into the country and migrating out. Let's see what has happened since 1996. Births and deaths, 1,500,000, 1,500,000, 1,500,000, 1 million there, 500,000 dying there, 1 million being born, 500,000 dying. And by 2011, South Africa has 51.8 million people as we counted them. South Africa is a country of provinces, and by province, what do we see? Let's rank them. KwaZulu-Natal used to be the biggest province in 2001. Now it's second largest. Gauteng is the biggest. 12.3 million people. KwaZulu-Natal, 10.3 million. Northern Cape, 1.1 million. Well, the province in Northern Cape has been saying, well, what can we do to reach 2 million people? I said, well, you just need us to visit there much more frequently. You'll see your 2 million people. Suppose Gauteng were to get its share of the land on a proportionate basis. How would Gauteng look like? This is a cartogram. You'll get this on your website. That's how Gauteng will be. That's the size of Gauteng. And Northern Cape will be that small. If we were to represent proportionately the number of people in the country proportionate to the size of the land. Of course, you cannot change the size of the land. They've done it in KwaZulu-Natal. They have added a few square kilometers to the land. They reclaimed some land from the sea. Gauteng doesn't have a sea to reclaim land from. By municipality, that's what has happened. Well, that's the map, 5.4 million in Limpopo, 12.3 million in Gauteng, and 6.5 million in Eastern Cape. That's the population pyramid, a very important pyramid. In terms of population group, 80% black, 8.9 colored, 8.7 white, and 2.6 Asian Indian. That's the population pyramid. On the y-axis, we have an age group, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, up to 80. And this side, we have a percentage distribution. And you can see that 0 to 4 is more about 12% thereabout. And we know that the black population has the bulk of the population. Let's look at white pyramid. About 5%. Let's go back to all. You'll see that the pyramid broadens. The lower age group there is your what they call demographic dividend. But to earn a dividend, you have to invest, and invest wisely. Now, South Africa has to ask the question, have we invested wisely on that demographic dividend? The 0 to 4 population, 10 to 14, 15 to 19. And what is this investment? What form should it take? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourselves. And then, of course, you see the black population there, because it is the majority, it takes the bulk of that young population. It's a young population, and it's similar to the colored population. You can see the broad base, but the white population is like the Indian population. I also say, well, I mean, Tim Cool is like Kodboom here. You can see the population base. Now, what has made Gauteng to be what it is? Let's go straight to Gauteng. Let's just look at the Northern Cape. The one graph that I'm showing here is the people flowing into the Northern Cape from different provinces. Hardly can see any moving in there. Those who are moving in the Eastern Cape, from Gauteng, from Western Cape, and then, of course, from all provinces into the Western Cape. Those from Gauteng, rich people retiring. Those from Eastern Cape looking for a job in Western Cape. And then, of course, let's go to Gauteng. Everybody wants to come to Josi. That's where it is, the city of gold. Everyone wants to go there, from Limpopo, from KwaZulu-Natal, from Eastern Cape, and so on. And then from Northwest here, a very interesting phenomena of people migrating to the Northwest from the Eastern Cape, largely in the mining industry. That's where you see a number of people going there, particularly from the Eastern Cape. It's a village there in the north, towards the north. I don't have a pointer. But towards the north, or part of next to Northam in the northwest. The place is called Svikile. The mining community of the Eastern Cape has been settling there in Svikile, and they have been enjoying the hospitality of the people in the northwest until the wives and children of the miners from the Eastern Cape decided to say, no, we are following our husbands now. And when they got there, they said, Svikile, we have arrived, and we are not going back. So here is how people have moved out of their own provinces. From Limpopo, you can see flowing into Gauteng. From KwaZulu-Natal, flowing into Gauteng. From Eastern Cape, flowing into both Gauteng as well as into Western Cape. What that has resulted in is the number of the growth that you see in Gauteng and the growth that you see in the Western Cape. 26% all in all growth, and 29% growth in the Western Cape. Well, those of us who are sitting here, only 56% of us were born in the province of Gauteng. The rest are immigrants into the province of Gauteng. 44% of the population of Gauteng is everybody. It is the melting pot. That's Gauteng. So that graph shows that. I will show you where this 56% is. There it is. So Gauteng is the big one. Those who were born outside, well, they say there are 6 million Zimbabweans here. I'm still to find whether there are 300,000 or more. No 6 million Zimbabweans in South Africa. 300,000 only. Now, what society are we? This is a story of income in South Africa. And it's income per household. The census says that from 2001 to 2011, incomes have grown actually by 113%. Inflation has grown by 77%. Real incomes have actually grown. Inflation has been beaten. While the tide has risen and all ships have risen, they have risen much faster for some and less so for others. You see, this thing is I don't know how to show it, but there it is. I mean, if I had a point, I'll show you. But you can see that there is income this side on the x-axis and the number of people on the y-axis. This is income of black men. Look at income of white men. Look at that wave going to the right. The more to the right you move, the more household income, the better the household income. And the more to the left you move, the worse the household income. So that's the household income story. And in the NPC, National Planning Commission, they stand this story. This distribution shows that at the one end, people are trapped, and they cannot move out of that poverty. It's very, very difficult to move out of that. That's why you see this bimodal distribution. the two peaks in the distribution. You don't see the two peaks in the white male. Say, it's like a bell shape. Statistically, it's just a bell shape, nice bell shape. But with the mode and the median, as well as the mean, that is the average measures of central tendency show a higher income for whites per household. I've said that incomes have grown, and they're a function of a number of things. Average household size, the number of people that work per household, and so on. Amongst black households, there are bigger households, and fewer people work there. So the average income here is a reflection and captures that. Well, let's go to the colored income. I said Grootboom and Tim Kulu are the same. Indian and white population, more or less that way. Women. The theme this year for statistics, Africa Statistics Day, which is the 18th, which was yesterday, the theme is engendering statistics, seeking equality between men and women. And we can see that the female income amongst even whites is still lower, and worse so amongst black women. So statistics tells a tale of the endeavors of the society. As you can see, that average household income there, 365,000 for whites, 60,000 for blacks. So while the income for blacks has almost doubled or trebled, it is still coming from a very low base of about 28,000 some time back, and now 60,000. And then amongst whites, 365,000, average 103,000. Let's look at education, and I want to move quickly to education. You can see that amongst the youth, that is the children 5 to 6 to 7, upwards of 90% are actually attending school. And if you look at this from 96 to 2011, you can see that in 20% were in these pre-learning schools, and by 2011, 80% of children are in some form of learning or the other. At 6, we see 40% up to upwards of 90. At 7, from 1996, 70% up to upwards of 90%. So there are real movements at the lower end. So children are actually going to school. But what kind of education is this? Now, I'll move fast. The census, the beauty of the census is that if you were born already in 1930, we can find about you. Because if you are still alive at the time when we come with the census, we know and understand about you. The story of education, the time plot, tells us a tale of South Africa. In 1930, that was the distribution. By 1950, 48, we know that the Nationalist Party won the election and formalized apartheid as the development program of the country. 1953, on the 17th of November, our prime minister, who became our prime minister later, Dr. Verwoerd, in 1953 said, what's the use of teaching Bantu child mathematics when it can't use it in practice? On the y-axis, we are showing the percentage of population that had grade 3 as early as 1930. And on the x-axis, we show time. Now, the dots, the yellow dot, well, they are yellow. I don't know how yellow it is. I mean, my yellow is much better here. The yellow dots and the light green dots, the yellow dots represent white, the green dot, Indian, and the one below it, it's colored, and the blue dot is black. Upwards of 90% of whites had already education, grade 3. 60% of Indians and colored had grade 3. And of course, the blacks are lower than 40% at grade 3. And of course, recruitment for war then was occurring for the Second World War in the 40s. And these guys had to put a stone on the left and a stick on the right, and then left, right, because this left-right thing was too English. And people couldn't understand, so you put a stone on the left and a stick on the right, and then we can say, the stick, the stone, the stick, the stone. So then they start marching, like, forward march. That's how... Now, let's see how this forward march occurred. And of course, we know that in 1976, we had the Soweto riots. Now, there we go. There are the blacks. They like education. They want to go to grade 3. Indians and colors are already in grade 3. Whites are steady at 90%, above 90%. They all move. Through 1970s, they all move, and they all acquire grade 3. In 2011, we are all educated. We have grade 3. Now, let's look at the steep one, grade 10. You know, in the 60s and the 70s, in the 60s and the 50s, you would only buy brandy if you had a certificate of standard 6, if you are black. You would only get that certificate, then you will be qualified to buy brandy. So no black person could inconceivably buy brandy because none of them had grade 10. You can see the colored and the black there. Below 10% have grade 10. Whites above 70%, and Indians lower than 30%. So brandy was out of reach. Only Mkompoti was okay. Now let's see how the system plays itself. There we go. The blacks want education. They actually match very well with the Indians. The colors are slightly lower. By 1950, the Bantu education is declared. There we see the Indians rebelling against the Bantu education. Colors and blacks mesh together. The whites are moving and they are getting grade 10. More and more are getting grade 10. Indians are catching up. Blacks and colors are rising. And by end of time, there is grade 10. This is the story of income. Now, from 1996, the story of how many people didn't have education. The dark spots, the brown spots, show people who don't have education. The light blue spots show people who have education. You can see Western Cape, Gauteng, the Free State. I usually say the influence of Lesotho on the Free State is very clear. You can see it here. It's just bordering Lesotho here. And you can see it bordering the Eastern Cape. And of course, Gauteng, Western Cape, Limpopo and KwaZulu-Natal and all these other places, it's all many people not having education. What has happened since 1996? You can see all areas getting lighter, brightened, light shining on these places across the country, all places at least less than halving the number of people without education. And by 2011, we can see very few places, except, of course, KwaZulu-Natal. Now, water. You can see that across time, 80% in 96 had tap water, 85% in 2001, 91% in 2011. That's what the citizens are saying. They say, well, we have tap water. That's what we came to ask. In terms of maps, we can see that Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, you can see here, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, less water, here, Northwest, but the rest of the country a little bit. Or even in Limpopo, less water, but they make rain there, so they can always get water. They even have a rain queen. Now, there is the story of water. It's improving all over, but in Eastern Cape, there is no improvement. Very, very little improvement. KwaZulu-Natal covering better in 2011, that's what we said. We thought that we should look at why is Eastern Cape so refusing to get water. So we got curious. So we said, well, let's see. Now we looked at this village, Eastern Cape, Nkunza, as a sample of this. Only 8% of the people have water there. Of course, they say, from the hill to the other, they can say, but the water is in the valleys. So it doesn't come to the Molom Klobwam on the hills. That's the problem. So there is vantage point to see people coming from anywhere, including when the police come and say, when last did you eat meat? When it rained? So moving water from the valleys is very, very difficult. And this is the narrative of South Africa. Well, television, 54%, 75%, landlines, 24%, dropping to 15%. Of course, all of us use cell phones. I have two on me here. Look at 2 cell phones. So landlines are no longer a very important communication tool for South Africa, 32% to 89%. Radio is dropping because the cell phone is also functioning as a radio. I no longer need a radio. Besides, this thing is just too bulky to walk with it and put it on my ear and listen to it. I can look at my cell phone, put some earphones in my ear, and I have my cell phone in my pocket. And life becomes easy. I don't have these bulging things around me. Computers, 9 to 21%, and refrigerations, 51 to 63%. You can see a number of millions of households increasing from 9 million to 14 million. Internet access getting better. Dwelling type, more formal dwellings, 78% formal. And of course, lastly, let's talk about electricity. Looks like it was a census year every year. It got yellow. from 58% in 1996 to 70% to 85% by 2011. All these are MDG indicators: education, electricity, access to water are all MDG indicators. And then, of course, more electricity in the Western Cape. Let's see how this has played itself from 1996. The dark spots are night. The yellow spots are electricity. Now, electricity for lighting, you can see the country turning yellow every year, becomes a census year, every place turning yellow, across the country turning yellow. Every other part gets electricity above 85%. 2006, 2007, 2011, the country is turning yellow, except Kanyakude, where the light shines from far. That's the dark spot there. It's called Kanyakude. So the light didn't reach quite there in the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal, boundary, Swaziland, and so on. And this is the story of South Africa. This is the narrative of the numbers. This is what has happened across the South Africa. This is what the households are saying about what has changed in their lives. We came to our houses, we asked, and we said, this is what has happened. We came in 2001, we said, this is what has happened. We came in 96, we said, this is what has happened. There are some people that are saying, oh, these numbers, particularly the two professors from UCT, that this thing was rushed. Now, I'm not sure. I was thinking about the blind of Jericho. And the blind of Jericho had a mud, and Jesus spit some saliva there and said, go and wash your eyes in the Sand River. And he washed and then he saw. But then the Pharisees said, no, it couldn't have been done on a Sunday. It can't be correct. You can't see when your eyes were washed on a Sunday. Now, these figures cannot be correct because they were rushed. I don't know what is the meaning of rush. We had a time plan. We said, once we got this, we tested it in 2007 with the CS. We said, if this is the result in 2007, we deliver this result within 8 months. Nothing will beat us in delivering them within 12 months. It meant that the project director there, Calvin, doesn't sleep. He works his butt off throughout time. Indeed, the team, let's just say, did that and delivered the results within 10 months, 12 months. Now, the two professors say they were rushed. It can't be so. It can't be true that this has happened. The figures cannot be correct because they were rushed. My answer is, the blind of Jericho knew that yesterday he didn't see, but today he sees. And that's the evidence, nothing else. I was blind, but now I see.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the Statistician General, Mr. Pali Lehohla.